Commander Tejo stared at his screen and could not believe what he was seeing. His exploration fleet had been traveling through dead space for 3 weeks now. This area was supposed to be empty. The star charts showed nothing here but cold rocks and gas clouds. Yet his sensors were picking up energy readings that should not exist. He called over to his science officer. Dr. Sumin hurried to his station and began running checks on the equipment. She ran the same scan 5 times before looking up at Tejo with wide eyes. "These readings are real, Commander," she said quietly. "Something big is out there and it is using power levels I have never seen before." Admiral Su Jin walked onto the bridge just as the alarm started going off. The tall woman had served in the Galactic Empire fleet for 30 years and had seen many strange things, but when she looked at the sensor data, her face went pale. "What are we dealing with here?" she asked. "Unknown technology," Admiral replied the young lieutenant at the communications station. "The energy patterns do not match anything in our databases." The fleet consisted of 12 ships. They were the best the Empire had to offer. Fast scout vessels mixed with heavy cruisers and 1 massive exploration carrier. They had been sent to map this empty region of space before the Empire claimed it as new territory. Now they found themselves facing something that was not supposed to exist. Commander Tejo ordered the fleet to slow down and approach carefully. As they got closer, the readings became stronger. Whatever was out there was huge. The energy output suggested structures the size of small moons. Dr. Sumin worked frantically at her station, trying to understand what they were seeing. The technology was completely alien to her. It used principles that Empire science said were impossible. Energy was being generated from sources she could not identify. Materials were registering as substances that did not exist in any known database. Suddenly, the space around them began to shimmer. What had appeared empty moments before now showed massive structures floating in the darkness. Cities in space larger than anything the Empire had ever built. Ships that dwarfed their entire fleet, all of it had been completely invisible until this moment. Admiral Su Jin grabbed onto her chair as she realized they had walked into the middle of a hidden civilization. Every instinct told her they were in terrible danger. Her ships were surrounded by technology that could probably destroy them without effort. Commander, the communications officer called out, "We are being scanned. Multiple sources. They know we are here." Before anyone could respond, their screens lit up with new contacts. Ships were appearing all around them. Not just a few, but dozens. Each one was sleek and beautiful in a way that made Empire vessels look crude and clumsy. The largest ship moved closer to their fleet. It was easily 3 times the size of their exploration carrier, but moved with grace that seemed impossible for something so massive. Strange lights pulsed along its hull in patterns that hurt to look at directly. Captain Minho stood at his tactical station, watching the newcomers with professional interest. As the Empire's expert on alien contact, he had studied every known species in the galaxy. But these ships matched no known design. The construction principles were completely foreign to him. "They are not targeting us yet," he reported. "But I count at least 40 vessels now. All of them are more advanced than anything we have ever encountered." Dr. Sumin was running continuous scans, trying to understand what they were facing. The materials these ships were made from registered as being stronger than Empire military armor. Their engines used zero-point energy extraction, something Empire scientists had proven was impossible. Their weapon systems were beyond anything. In the database, Admiral Su Jin made the decision that probably saved all their lives. Instead of powering up weapons or trying to run, she ordered all ships to maintain defensive positions and wait. They were clearly outmatched. Any aggressive move would be suicide. The waiting was the hardest part. For 20 minutes they sat surrounded by alien ships while nothing happened. The crew was getting nervous. Some of the younger officers were suggesting they should try to escape while they still could. Then the communications array came alive with an incoming transmission. The signal was clear and strong. When the translation computers processed it, the message came through in perfect galactic standard language. "Welcome to human space," the voice said calmly. "Please state your intentions." The bridge went completely silent. Admiral Su Jin felt her blood turn cold. Human space. That was impossible. Humans were extinct. Had been for over 300 years. Every school child in the Empire knew the story. Earth had destroyed itself in wars and environmental collapse. The few survivors had died out within generations. The Empire had sent survey teams to check on them twice over the centuries. Both times they found dead worlds and empty space. Yet, here was someone claiming to be human, speaking their language perfectly, controlling technology that made the Empire look primitive. Commander Tejo found his voice first. "This is Commander Tejo of the Galactic Empire Exploration Fleet," he transmitted back. "We were conducting routine surveys of this region. We had no knowledge that this space was occupied." The response came immediately. "We know who you are, Commander. We have been watching your approach for several days. Our records show this is the first time Empire ships have entered our territory. We are curious about your intentions here." Dr. Suman was frantically checking the historical databases. According to every record she could find, humans had gone extinct in the year 2847. Earth had become uninhabitable. The species had died out. There were no human colonies, no human ships, no trace of human civilization anywhere in the galaxy. Admiral Su-Jin stepped forward to take control of the conversation. "I am Admiral Su-Jin, commanding this exploration fleet. If you are truly human, then this changes everything we know about galactic history. Our records show your species as extinct for over 3 centuries. A new voice came over the communications system. This one belonged to a woman who sounded both amused and tired. "I am He-Jin, and I speak for the humans in this region. Your records are wrong, Admiral. We never died out. We simply chose to disappear." The implications of this statement hit everyone on the bridge at the same time. If humans had been hiding for 3 centuries, then they had been developing in secret all this time. The technology surrounding them was the result of hundreds of years of advancement without interference. Captain Minho ran quick calculations in his head. A civilization with 300 years of uninterrupted development using technology the Empire had never seen before. They could be decades or even centuries ahead of anything the galactic community had achieved. He-Jin continued speaking. "We are willing to meet with you, Admiral, but it will be on our terms. You will follow our ships to a neutral location. Your weapons will remain powered down. Any attempt to scan our facilities or gather intelligence will result in your immediate escort from our territory." Admiral Su-Jin looked around her bridge at the faces of her crew. She could see the same thoughts in their eyes that were running through her mind. They had stumbled onto the discovery of the Millennium, a lost human civilization that had not only survived, but had apparently thrived beyond anything imaginable. She also knew they had no choice but to agree. The ships around them represented power that could destroy their entire fleet without breaking formation. These humans had allowed themselves to be discovered, which meant they were confident in their ability to control the situation. "We agree to your terms, Hyejin," she transmitted. "We request permission to record this contact for historical purposes." "Permission granted," came the reply. "Follow the lead ship, and Admiral, try not to be too surprised by what you see. We have had a very long time to prepare for this day." As their fleet began moving toward the human vessels, Admiral Su-Jin wondered what they were about to discover. The humans had hidden from the galaxy for 3 centuries. Now, they were revealing themselves. The question that worried her most was simple. What had changed to make them decide that now was the time to show themselves to the Empire? The human space station appeared before them like something from a dream. Admiral Su-Jin had seen the largest structures the Empire could build, but this made them look like toys. The station stretched for kilometers in every direction, yet their sensors could barely detect it even when they were right next to it. Dr. Daun pressed her face to the viewport, trying to understand what she was seeing. As the Empire's chief scientist, she had studied physics for 40 years. Everything about this station violated the laws she thought were absolute. The materials glowed with inner light but generated no heat. The structure bent space around itself in ways that should have torn it apart. Commander Tejo watched the docking procedure with growing amazement. Instead of using mechanical arms or magnetic clamps, the station simply opened space around their ship. One moment they were flying through vacuum, and the next they were inside a hangar that had not existed seconds before. The artificial gravity kicked in as soon as they crossed the threshold. But it was not the heavy, crushing feeling of Empire stations. This felt natural, like standing on a planet's surface. The air that filled the hangar was clean and sweet-smelling, nothing like the recycled atmosphere they were used to. Captain Wu Jin studied everything with military eyes, looking for weapons and defenses. What he saw worried him more than visible guns would have. There were no obvious weapons anywhere, but every surface, every device, every structural beam looked like it could become dangerous in an instant. The entire station was a weapon waiting to be activated. They were met by a small group of humans who looked exactly like the historical record said they should. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head, all the basic features. But there was something different about them that took a moment to identify. They moved with perfect grace, and their eyes held intelligence that seemed almost supernatural. Hye Jin stepped forward to greet them, and Admiral Sujin finally understood what was different. These humans were enhanced, not just physically but mentally. She could see it in the way they processed information and how they anticipated questions before they were asked, in their complete confidence despite meeting aliens for the first time in centuries. "Welcome to Station 1, Hye Jin said with a smile that seemed genuinely warm. "I apologize for the dramatic reveal, but we needed to see how you would react to the unexpected. Your response was better than we hoped for. The tour that followed changed everything." Admiral Sujin thought she knew about civilization. The station was not just big, it was alive in ways she could not explain. Walls shifted to create new rooms as needed. Lighting adjusted automatically to each person's preferences. The air itself seemed to respond to the emotional state of the people breathing it. Dr. Daon was taking readings constantly, but her instruments gave her numbers that made no sense. The station was generating more energy than it consumed. The structural materials were stronger than anything in the Empire database, but weighed almost nothing. The computer systems processed information faster than light could travel. They were shown to a meeting room that had not existed when they entered the station. The walls were transparent, offering a view of space that should have shown empty darkness. Instead, they could see human ships moving between installations that filled the area for light years in every direction. "How long have you been here, Admiral?" Sujin asked as she tried to count the massive structures floating in the distance. "We never left," Hye Jin replied simply. "When Earth began to die, we did not run away. We went underground. We built cities beneath the surface and learned to live without affecting the environment above. Your survey ships saw a dead world because that was what we wanted them to see." Captain Minho leaned forward with interest. "But the environmental collapse was real," he said. "The oceans were poisoned, the atmosphere was toxic. How did you survive that?" "We fixed it," Hye Jin said, as if it was the most natural thing in the world. "It took us about 50 years to clean the air and water. Another century to restore the ecosystems. Earth is more beautiful now than it was before the damage began." The implications of this statement hit everyone at once. If humans had developed technology to reverse planetary environmental collapse, then they had capabilities the Empire desperately needed. Dozens of worlds in Empire space were facing the same problems Earth had experienced. Dr. So Young, who studied alien societies for the Empire, spoke up carefully. "Your government structure intrigues me," she said. "How do you maintain order across such a vast territory without the conflicts that plague other civilizations?" "We learned from your mistakes," Hye Jin answered with that same gentle smile. "We studied Empire history for 3 centuries. We watched your wars, your political failures, your social problems. We designed our society to avoid those issues entirely." She gestured to the walls around them, which immediately displayed images of human worlds. Cities that looked like gardens growing naturally from the landscape. Factories that produced no waste and consumed no resources they did not immediately replace. Transportation systems that moved people and goods without infrastructure. "Every decision we make is evaluated by systems that can predict consequences thousands of years into the future," Hye Jin continued. "We eliminated poverty by making resources unlimited. We ended conflicts by ensuring everyone has everything they need. We solved crime by removing the conditions that create it." Commander Tae-ho found this hard to believe. No civilization could be that perfect, he thought. There had to be problems they were not being shown. Yet everything he could see suggested the humans had indeed created a society that worked flawlessly. The most shocking revelation came when He-Jin showed them the monitoring systems. Screens filled with information about every world and empire space. Population levels, economic conditions, political situations, military movements. The humans knew everything about the galactic community that had forgotten they existed. "We have been watching you since the day we chose to disappear," He-Jin explained. "We needed to understand what kind of civilization you were becoming, whether you would be ready for contact when the time came, whether you could be trusted with knowledge of our existence." Admiral Su-Jin felt a chill run down her spine. The humans had been observing the Empire for 3 centuries without being detected. They knew about every classified operation, every secret project, every political scandal. They probably understood Empire civilization better than most Empire citizens did. The meeting continued for hours as the humans revealed more about their capabilities. They had mastered dimensional engineering, allowing them to create spaces larger inside than outside. They had developed quantum manufacturing that could create any material needed from basic elements. They had enhanced themselves genetically not to become something inhuman, but to become the best possible version of human. Captain Wu-Jin finally asked the question everyone was thinking. "Why reveal yourselves now? You could have stayed hidden forever. Why take the risk of contact?" Ye-Jin looked at each of them before answering. "Because the galaxy is in trouble," she said quietly. "The Empire is expanding too fast, depleting resources too quickly, creating instabilities that threaten everyone. We can no longer stand by and watch civilizations destroy themselves when we have the knowledge to help them." She stood and walked to the transparent wall, looking out at the hidden human fleet. "We are not revealing ourselves to you," she said. "You are the first to learn of our existence, but you will not be the last. It is time for humanity to return to the galaxy. The question is whether we return as friends or as something else entirely." The room fell silent as the weight of her words sank in. The humans were not just revealing themselves, they were preparing to reshape galactic civilization. And the Empire had just become the first to learn that everything was about to change. The transport ship that carried them deeper into human space was unlike anything Admiral Su-Jin had ever experienced. It moved without vibration and made no sound as it traveled faster than should have been possible. Through the transparent walls, she could see stars shifting position in ways that violated everything she knew about physics. Dr. Da-Yun was taking readings frantically, but her instruments kept giving her impossible data. They were moving between star systems in minutes instead of days. The ship was using some form of dimensional folding that let it step outside normal space and emerge anywhere its crew desired. Their first stop was a world the humans called New Eden. From orbit, it looked like a paradise planet covered in green, forests, blue oceans, and white cities that seemed to grow naturally from the landscape. But as they descended, Admiral Su-Jin realized something that made her heart race with fear. "This is Earth," she whispered as recognition dawned on her. Chan Wu, their young human guide, nodded with obvious pride. "We told you we fixed it," he said simply. "It took longer than we hoped, but we never gave up on our home world." The shuttle landed in what had once been called the Pacific Ocean. Now it was filled with floating cities that rose and fell with the waves like living things. Each structure was beautiful beyond description and clearly designed by minds that understood both function and art in ways the Empire never had. Colonel Jin Woo studied everything with military eyes, looking for the defenses that had to exist somewhere. A civilization this advanced would not leave itself unprotected. But no matter how carefully he searched, he could see no weapons, no fortifications, no obvious military installations anywhere. "Where are your defenses?" he finally asked Chan Wu as they walked through streets filled with humans who looked healthier and happier than any people he had ever seen. "You are looking at them," Chan Wu replied with amusement. "Every building, every vehicle, every piece of technology can become part of our defense network if needed. We do not separate civilian and military infrastructure because we do not need to. They were taken to a manufacturing center that demonstrated human capabilities in ways that left the Empire delegation speechless." Dr. So Young watched as raw materials were fed into machines that seemed to reshape reality itself. Elements were combined and transformed using processes that created no waste and consumed energy from sources she could not identify. In less than 4 hours, they built a complete starship, from basic components. Not a small vessel, but a massive cruiser larger than the flagship Admiral Sujin commanded. The finished ship incorporated technologies that made Empire vessels look like ancient relics. The hull was made from materials that could repair themselves, if damaged. The engines used zero-point energy extraction to generate unlimited power. The life support systems created perfect environments that improved the health of anyone aboard. The computer systems were so advanced they seemed almost alive. Commander Taeho examined the construction process, trying to understand how it was possible. In the Empire building, a ship this size required massive shipyards, thousands of workers, and months of careful assembly. The humans had done it in an afternoon with machines that seemed to think for themselves. "How many ships can you build?" Dr. Dayun asked as she studied the fabrication equipment. "As many as we need," Chanwu answered. "Our manufacturing capacity is essentially unlimited. We can produce anything required in whatever quantities necessary. Resource depletion is not a concern when you can manipulate matter at the atomic level." The implications were staggering. The Empire constantly struggled with resource shortages and production bottlenecks. Entire wars had been fought over access to raw materials and manufacturing facilities. The humans had eliminated those problems entirely. Their next stop was an agricultural world where the impossible became routine. Plants grew in perfect rows without soil, producing fruits and vegetables that looked too perfect to be real. Yet, when they tasted the food, it was better than anything from Empire worlds. The farms required no water because the plants extracted moisture directly from the atmosphere. They needed no fertilizer because the growing systems recycled nutrients with perfect efficiency. They produced no waste because every part of every plant served some useful purpose. Dr. So Young studied the agricultural systems, trying to understand how they worked. The plants themselves had been enhanced at the genetic level to be more nutritious, more productive, and more resistant to disease than anything natural evolution had created. "We solved hunger about 2 centuries ago," Chanwu explained, as they walked through orchards where every tree bore fruit regardless of season. "Once we understood how to optimize biological systems, food production became trivial." Captain Wu Jin was becoming more concerned with every revelation. A civilization that could build unlimited ships and feed unlimited populations had capabilities that dwarfed anything the Empire possessed. If the humans decided they wanted to expand their territory, nothing could stop them. The tour continued for days as they visited world after world that showed human mastery over every aspect of existence. Cities that adjusted themselves to the needs of their inhabitants. Transportation systems that moved people and goods instantly across interstellar distances. Communication networks that allowed perfect understanding between any two individuals regardless of distance. But the most impressive demonstration came when they visited a world that was still under construction. Admiral Sujin watched in amazement as massive machines reshaped the planet's surface, building mountains and oceans, according to some grand design. "We are creating a world specifically for scientific research," Chanwu explained, as they watched continents being formed from raw rock and metal. "The environment will be perfect for every type of experiment we want to conduct. Weather, gravity, atmospheric composition. Everything will be adjustable to match our needs." The idea of building custom planets for specific purposes was beyond anything the Empire had imagined. They could barely terraform worlds to be minimally habitable. The humans were crafting entire worlds like artists creating masterpieces. Dr. Dayun finally asked the question that was troubling everyone. "Why are you showing us all of this?" she said. "You could have kept your capabilities secret. Why reveal the full extent of your power?" Chanwu stopped walking and turned to face the group. His expression became serious for the first time since they had met him. "Because you need to understand what you are dealing with," he said quietly. "We are not another species trying to find our place in the galaxy. We are the civilization that will inherit the galaxy when the current one fails." The words hung in the air like a challenge. Admiral Sujin realized that this entire tour had been a demonstration of power, designed to show the Empire exactly how outmatched they were. The humans were not seeking equality or partnership. They were showing the Empire what the future would look like, whether they participated in it or not. Colonel Jinwu stepped forward with military directness. Are you threatening us? He asked. Chan Wu smiled sadly. We do not make threats, Colonel. We make statements of fact. The current galactic civilization is unsustainable. It will collapse within the next century regardless of what we do. The question is whether we help guide the transition to something better, or whether we simply wait for the inevitable failure and build something new from the wreckage. As they returned to their ship that evening, Admiral Su Jin understood that everything had changed. They had not discovered a lost human colony or a minor civilization trying to rejoin galactic society. They had found the inheritors of the galaxy watching and waiting for their moment to take control. The only question now was whether the Empire would adapt to the new reality or become another historical footnote in the rise of human dominance. Dr. Young-sik could not believe what he was seeing in the human schools. As the Empire's leading expert on education systems, he had studied learning methods across dozens of species. But what the humans had created was beyond anything he had imagined. Possible children who appeared to be no more than 10 years old were solving mathematical problems that would challenge Empire University professors. They worked with complex scientific concepts as easily as if they were playing simple games. Yet they showed none of the stress or difficulty that such advanced learning should require. One young girl named Bo-Ra demonstrated her understanding of quantum mechanics by building a working device that manipulated probability fields. She explained the principles behind her creation in simple language that made concepts clear, which had taken Dr. Young-sik years to grasp. When he asked how she had learned such advanced topics, Bo-Ra looked confused by the question. We learn everything, she said as if it was obvious. Mathematics, science, history, art, music, languages. Why would you only learn some things and ignore others? The human education system did not separate subjects the way Empire schools did. Students learned science through art projects, explored history by creating music, studied mathematics while writing poetry. Every subject connected to every other subject in ways that made learning natural and enjoyable. Commander Nara watched a group of human teenagers design and build a spacecraft as part of their class project. They worked together without conflict, sharing ideas and resources freely. The finished vessel incorporated technologies that would be classified as top secret in Empire space, yet these children had invented it as homework. Your students seem remarkably advanced, she commented to their teacher, a woman named Miss Yuna. They are exactly what human children should be, Miss Yuna replied. We have removed the artificial limitations that restricted learning in the past. When children are enhanced to their full potential, and given access to all available knowledge, they naturally excel at everything they attempt. Dr. Young-sik studied the enhancement process that all human children received. It was not forced genetic modification but careful optimization of natural human capabilities. Memory was improved but not changed. Intelligence was enhanced, but creativity and emotional development were preserved. The result was humans who could learn anything they chose to study yet remained completely human in their thoughts and feelings. They had not become cold, emotionless machines but warm, caring people who happened to possess capabilities that seemed almost supernatural. The adults were even more impressive. Admiral Su Jin met with human leaders who had been alive for centuries, but appeared young and healthy. They had memories spanning hundreds of years yet remained curious about new ideas and open to different perspectives. One elderly man named Elder Jin Su had personally witnessed the environmental collapse of Earth and its restoration. He spoke of those events as if they had happened recently. Yet his knowledge of current affairs was perfect, and his understanding of future possibilities was beyond anything she had encountered. We have learned to balance experience with innovation, he explained as they discussed human society. Age brings wisdom, but it can also bring rigid thinking. We have found ways to maintain mental flexibility, even as we accumulate centuries of knowledge. The human government operated in ways that made empire politics look primitive and wasteful. Decisions were made by artificial intelligence systems that could process information from millions of sources and predict consequences thousands of years into the future. But the final choices were always made by humans who considered factors the machines could not calculate. Captain Dong Ho studied their decision-making process with growing amazement. There were no political parties competing for power, no corruption, distorting choices, no special interests influencing outcomes. Every decision was made based on what would create the best results for human civilization as a whole. They had eliminated the conflicts that paralyzed empire government by removing the scarcity that created competition. When everyone had everything there was no reason to fight over resources or territory. When information was freely available, there was no advantage to be gained through deception or manipulation. Their entertainment systems demonstrated creativity that went beyond anything the empire had produced. Music that could directly influence emotions, creating feelings of joy or peace or excitement as the listener desired. Stories that placed the audience inside the narrative, letting them experience events as if they were really happening. Dr. So Young experienced a human art form that had no equivalent in empire culture. She was placed in a chamber that stimulated all her senses, simultaneously creating the impression that she was living through historical events as they actually occurred. She felt the fear of ancient warriors, heard the voices of long-dead philosophers, smelled the air of worlds that no longer existed. This is how we preserve our culture, the human artist named Kyung-min explained. Rather than simply recording events, we allow people to experience them directly. History becomes personal when you can feel what our ancestors felt. The technology extended to physical experiences as well. Humans could share sensations across any distance, letting loved ones touch and embrace even when separated by light years. They could experience the physical sensations of other people, learning what it felt like to possess different bodies, different capabilities, different perspectives. Commander Nara tried the experience-sharing technology and found herself temporarily inhabiting the enhanced senses of a human who could see across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. Colors existed that she had never imagined, sounds carried information she could not have detected, and textures revealed details invisible to normal perception. When the experience ended, she understood why humans seemed so confident and capable. They lived in a world of sensations and information that other species could not access. Their enhanced abilities were not just physical, but sensory, giving them awareness of their environment that bordered on the mystical. The humans revealed that they had been studying empire psychology for centuries, learning how different species thought and felt and communicated. They had developed techniques for perfect translation, not just of language but of concepts and emotions, allowing true understanding between any two intelligent beings. Dr. Young-sik participated in a communication session where he experienced direct mental contact with a human researcher. For the first time in his life, he understood exactly what another person was thinking, without any possibility of misunderstanding or deception. The experience was overwhelming in its intimacy and clarity. Every thought, every emotion, every memory was shared completely. Yet rather than feeling invaded, he felt connected in a way that no normal conversation could achieve. This is how we resolve conflicts, the human researcher explained afterward. When people can truly understand each other, disagreements become opportunities for growth rather than sources of division. As their cultural exchange continued, the Empire delegation realized they were seeing the future of intelligent civilization. The humans had solved problems that had plagued thinking beings since the beginning of consciousness. War, poverty, disease, ignorance, fear, all had been eliminated through technology and wisdom working together. But the most impressive aspect of human culture was how they had maintained their humanity throughout their advancement. They had not become cold, calculating machines, but warm, caring beings who had simply removed the limitations that had restricted their ancestors. Admiral Su-jin understood that they were being shown a choice. The Empire could evolve into something similar to what humanity had become, or it could remain as it was and eventually be left behind as human civilization continued to advance beyond anything the galaxy had seen before. The question was whether the Empire would have the wisdom to choose evolution over stagnation. Admiral Su-jin felt the weight of eyes watching her every move as they gathered in the main conference room of the human station. Everything about their visit had been carefully orchestrated, she realized. Every demonstration, every revelation, every conversation had been designed to evaluate not just their capabilities but their character. The humans were not simply showing off their achievements. They were conducting the most important test in galactic history, and the Empire delegation had been chosen as the subjects. Yi Jin entered the room carrying what appeared to be a simple data pad, but Admiral Su Jin had learned not to underestimate human technology. The device probably contained more processing power than the Empire's largest computers, yet it looked like something a child might use for schoolwork. "We have a situation that requires immediate attention," Yi Jin began, without ceremony. "One of your worlds is facing complete ecological collapse. The planet Kepler 442b in the Outer Rim territories. Your own projections show total environmental failure within 18 months. Dr. Daeun leaned forward with interest. "We are aware of the crisis," she said carefully. "The Empire has allocated resources for evacuation procedures. The population will be relocated to other worlds before the situation becomes critical." Hyojin activated her device and the room filled with three-dimensional images of the dying planet. Poisoned oceans, dead forests, cities choking under toxic skies. It looked exactly like Earth had looked before the humans began their restoration efforts. "Evacuation is one option," Hyejin said quietly. "But not the only option." The images changed to show different scenes. Clean rivers flowing through, green valley cities surrounded by parks and gardens, oceans teeming with healthy marine life. It was the same planet but transformed into something beautiful and livable. "We can fix Kepler 442b in 6 months, Hyejin continued. "Our atmospheric processors can clean the air in weeks. Our biological restoration systems can bring dead ecosystems back to life. Our technology can make that world more beautiful than it was before the damage began." Captain Wu Jin studied the projections with military precision. The human proposals were impressive, but he could see the political implications immediately. If humans saved Kepler 442b, they would become heroes to the population there. The Empire would lose influence over an entire world. "What would you want?" in return, he asked suspiciously. "Nothing," Hyejin replied simply. "We would restore the planet and leave. The people there would remain Empire citizens living under Empire law following Empire customs. We would take no territory claim, no resources, demand no payment." The offer was so generous it seemed impossible to believe. Dr. So Young had studied enough political situations to know that no civilization ever gave such valuable assistance without expecting something in return. "There must be conditions," she said. Only one Hyejin confirmed. "You must not claim credit for the restoration. The people of Kepler 442b must know that humans saved their world when the Empire would have abandoned them. They deserve to know the truth about who helped them and who was willing to let them die." The room fell silent as the implications became clear. This was not just an offer of assistance, it was a test of character. The humans were asking whether the Empire valued the lives of its citizens more than its political reputation. Admiral Su Jin understood the trap immediately. If they accepted the offer, they would look weak and incompetent compared to human capabilities. If they refused, they would be responsible for the deaths of billions of people who could have been saved. Commander Taeho spoke up with obvious concern. This would change everything, he said. "If our people learn that humans have technology to solve problems we cannot handle, they will question our leadership, our competence, our right to govern." "That is the point," Hyejin replied calmly. "Your people deserve leaders who put their welfare above their pride. If you are not those leaders, then perhaps they need different ones." The conversation continued for hours as the delegation wrestled with the impossible choice they had been given. Dr. Jae-sung studied the technological specifications the humans provided, trying to understand how their restoration systems worked. The science was beyond anything the Empire possessed, yet it was explained in terms simple enough for him to grasp: the basic principles. Atmospheric processors that could separate and neutralize toxic compounds. Biological accelerators that could restore dead soil to fertility in days rather than decades. Ecosystem generators that could reintroduce extinct species from genetic templates. With this technology, the Empire could solve environmental problems that had plagued member worlds for generations. But accepting it would mean admitting that human science was centuries ahead of their own achievements. The humans revealed additional capabilities as the discussions progressed. They showed recordings of Empire military exercises conducted in secret areas of space. They displayed detailed knowledge of classified weapon systems and strategic plans. They had been watching everything the Empire did without being detected. General Hyojin examined the surveillance data with growing alarm. The humans knew about every military base, every weapons depot, every strategic resource in Empire space. If they chose to attack, they could cripple Empire defenses before anyone realized they were under assault. But the most disturbing revelation was how easily human ships could penetrate Empire territory. They demonstrated their stealth technology by sending vessels to orbit inhabited worlds without triggering any detection systems. They could have attacked at any time over the past centuries, yet they had chosen to remain hidden. Your defenses are impressive against known threats, Hyojin explained as she showed recordings of human ships moving undetected through Empire space. But our technology operates on principles your sensors cannot detect. We exist in dimensions your instruments cannot access. The implications were clear. If the humans decided the Empire was a threat, they could eliminate it without effort. The only reason Empire civilization continued to exist was because humans allowed it to exist. As the test continued, Admiral Sujin realized that every choice they made was being evaluated. How they responded to offers of help, whether they prioritized citizen welfare over political advantage, how they reacted to evidence of their own limitations. The humans were determining whether the Empire deserved to continue existing or whether it should be replaced with something better. Every question, every demonstration, every revelation was part of an examination that would determine the future of galactic civilization. Dr. Youngsik understood that this was bigger than first contact between species. This was an evaluation of an entire way of thinking about government society and the relationship between rulers and citizens. The humans had created a civilization that worked for everyone, not just the powerful few. They were asking whether the Empire could evolve into something similar, or whether it was too corrupted by self-interest to be worth preserving. As the day ended, Admiral Sujin knew they faced the most important decision in Empire history. They could accept human help and admit their limitations, or they could maintain their pride and accept responsibility for preventable suffering and death. But she also understood that this choice would determine not just the fate of Kepler 442b, but the future relationship between humanity and the rest of the galaxy. The humans were offering partnership to those who proved worthy of it, and replacement to those who did not. The test was not just about saving one world. It was about whether the Empire had the wisdom to recognize when it needed help, and the courage to accept that help even when it meant admitting weakness. The humans waited patiently for their answer, but Admiral Sujin could see the truth in their eyes. They had already made their decision about what would happen next. The only question was whether the Empire would participate in that future or become a casualty of it. Admiral Sujin stood at the viewport of her flagship, looking out at the human fleet that surrounded them. 3 days had passed since the test began, and she knew their time was running out. The decision they made in the next few hours would reshape the galaxy forever. The debate in the Empire delegation had been fierce. Half the officers wanted to accept human help and admit their limitations. The other half insisted that showing weakness would destroy Empire authority across all their territories. Both sides were right and both sides were wrong. Commander Taeho entered the ready room where the senior officers had gathered for their final discussion. His face was grim as he delivered the latest intelligence reports. 3 more Empire worlds are showing signs of environmental collapse, he said quietly. Our projections suggest we will lose at least 12 inhabited planets in the next 5 years, if current trends continue. Dr. Da-Yun looked up from her analysis of human technology specifications. With their assistance, we could save all of them, she said. Their restoration techniques could reverse centuries of damage in months. But the political cost would be enormous. Captain Wu Jin shook his head firmly. If we admit we cannot handle our own territorial problems, every species in the Empire will question our competence, he argued. Border worlds will declare independence. Member species will stop paying taxes. The entire structure of government will collapse. Dr. So Young had been studying human political philosophy, and she disagreed. Maybe that would not be such a bad thing, she said softly. Their system works better than ours in every measurable way. Lower crime rates, higher productivity, greater citizen satisfaction. Perhaps we should consider learning from them rather than competing with them. The argument continued, but Admiral Su-jin had already made her decision. She thought about the billions of people who would die if Kepler 442b was evacuated instead of restored. She thought about the other worlds facing similar crises. She thought about her duty to protect Empire citizens even if it meant admitting her own limitations. General Hyo Jin was studying tactical displays showing human military capabilities. Even if we wanted to fight them, we could not win, he said, with professional honesty. Their technology is centuries ahead of ours. Their ships can appear anywhere in our territory without warning. Their weapons could disable our entire fleet without destroying a single vessel. That was the final consideration. That settled the matter. The Empire had no choice but to work with the humans because they lacked the power to oppose them. The only real decision was whether to cooperate willingly or wait to be forced into submission. Admiral Su-jin activated the communication system and sent a message to Hye-jin, requesting an immediate meeting. Within minutes, she found herself back on the human station facing the woman who held the fate of galactic civilization in her hands. "We accept your offer," Admiral Su-jin said without ceremony. "Please save Kepler 442b. We will ensure the population knows who helped them, and we will accept the political consequences of that knowledge." Hye-jin smiled, but her expression remained serious. "That was the correct choice, Admiral," she said. "But it is only the beginning. We have larger questions to discuss." The human leader activated displays that showed the current state of Empire territory. Dozens of worlds facing environmental collapse. Hundreds of systems experiencing resource depletion. Thousands of settlements struggling with poverty, disease, and social unrest. "Your civilization is failing," Admiral Hye-jin said bluntly. "Not because your people are incapable, but because your systems are inadequate. You are trying to govern a galactic civilization using methods designed for single planets." Admiral Su-jin studied the projections and could not argue with the assessment. The Empire had grown too large and complex for traditional government structures to manage effectively. Problems that could have been solved easily on individual worlds became impossible when multiplied across thousands of systems. "We can teach you better methods," Hye-jin continued. "Government structures that scale efficiently, economic systems that eliminate scarcity, social programs that prevent conflicts before they begin, but only if you are willing to learn." The offer was more generous than Admiral Su-jin had dared hope. The humans were not planning to replace Empire leadership, but to help it evolve into something more effective. The transition would be difficult, but the alternative was watching their civilization collapse under its own inefficiencies. Dr. Jae Sung, who had been studying human social systems, spoke up with obvious excitement. "Your crime rates are essentially zero," he said. "Your economic inequality has been eliminated. Your environmental problems have been solved. If you can teach us those methods, we could create a golden age of galactic civilization." Hye-jin nodded approvingly. "That is our goal, Doctor," she confirmed. "We did not reveal ourselves to conquer the galaxy, but to save it. Your civilization has potential, but it needs guidance to reach that potential before it destroys itself." The conversation turned to practical details. How human advisors could be integrated into Empire government, which technologies could be shared immediately, and which required careful preparation, how to manage the political transition without causing chaos or rebellion. Admiral Su-jin understood that they were negotiating the peaceful transformation of galactic civilization. The Empire would remain in name, but everything about how it functioned would change. The process would take decades, but the result would be worth any temporary difficulties. Commander Nara asked about other species and their place in the new order. The humans assured her that every intelligent race would be included in the transformation. Some were already being contacted through discreet channels. Others would be approached when the time was right. "The galaxy will become what it should have been centuries ago," Hye-jin explained. "A community of species working together for mutual benefit, rather than competing for limited resources. Scarcity will be eliminated. Conflicts will be resolved through understanding rather than force. Every individual will have opportunities to reach their full potential. As the meeting concluded, Admiral Sujin realized she had witnessed the most important moment in galactic history. The humans had not conquered the empire they had offered to save it. The species everyone thought was extinct had returned to guide their younger siblings toward maturity. The journey back to Empire space was different from their arrival. Instead of being surrounded by mysterious alien vessels, they traveled with human ships whose crews they now considered allies. The technology that had seemed threatening now represented hope for solving